The champagne tower sparkled under the chandeliers at the Grand Rose Hotel. 40 guests mingled in their cocktail attire, celebrating my sister Madison's engagement to her investment banker fiancé, Trevor. I stood near the back, wearing the navy dress I'd bought on sale 3 months ago, watching Mom fuss over Madison's custom Vera Wang gown. I'm Olivia, 32 years old, a senior project manager at a tech consulting firm. I've lived in my downtown condo for 4 years. The one I bought with my own money after saving for 6 years while living in a studio apartment that barely fit a bed. Madison is 27, perpetually finding herself between yoga instructor certifications and failed Etsy shops, all funded by our parents. Everyone, can I have your attention please? Dad's voice boomed across the room. He tapped his champagne flute with a fork, the crystal ringing out sharply. The conversations died down. All eyes turned to the front where Dad stood with his arm around Madison, who looked radiant and smug in equal measure. Mom beamed beside them, her diamond earrings catching the light. Thank you all for being here to celebrate our beautiful Madison and her wonderful Trevor, Dad continued. As you know, Madison has always been the heart of our family. She brings joy and light wherever she goes. My stomach tightened. I recognized that tone. The same one he'd used when they announced they were paying for Madison's car, her apartment deposit, her trip to Bali. Now Madison and Trevor are starting their life together, and as parents, we want to help them build a strong foundation. Dad paused dramatically. So, we've decided that Olivia will be giving Madison her downtown condo as a wedding gift. The room erupted in applause and gasps of delight. Madison squealed, jumping up and down. Trevor looked confused but pleased. I felt every pair of eyes turn toward me, expecting me to smile, to nod, to play my role as the dutiful older sister. My hands went cold. The champagne flute in my hand trembled slightly. Isn't that wonderful? Mom chimed in, her voice saccharine. Olivia's been so fortunate in her career, and Madison and Trevor need a proper home to start their marriage. It's the perfect solution. I set down my glass carefully on a nearby table. No. The single word cut through the congratulatory murmurs like a knife. The room fell silent. I'm sorry, what? Dad's smile didn't waver but his eyes hardened. I said no. My voice was steady, clearer now. I'm not giving Madison my condo. Madison's face crumpled. Olivia, don't be like this. It's my wedding. You can't be selfish on my special day. Selfish. The word tasted bitter. That condo is mine. I saved for 6 years to buy it. I chose every fixture, painted every wall. It's not a gift to redistribute. Dad's face turned red. He stepped away from Madison, walking toward me with heavy footsteps that echoed on the marble floor. 40 guests watched in horrified fascination. You will give your sister that condo, he said quietly, his voice dangerous. She's getting married. She needs it more than you do. I need it because it's mine, I replied. I worked for it. You've always been ungrateful. Mom's voice shook with anger. After everything we've done for you, you can't do this one thing for your sister? Something inside me snapped. Everything you've done for me? Like paying for Madison's car while I took the bus? Funding her Europe trip while I ate ramen to save for a security deposit? Giving her your credit card while telling me to learn financial responsibility? That's different. Madison shrieked. I needed help. You were always fine. I was fine because I had no choice but to be fine. Dad closed the distance between us. His hand shot out before I could react. A sharp crack across my face that made my head snap to the side. Several guests gasped. My cheek burned, my eyes watering from the impact. You will give Madison that condo or you are no longer part of this family, Dad hissed. I touched my cheek, feeling the heat radiating from my skin. Then I walked past him, past my sobbing sister, past my mother's outraged expression. I picked up my briefcase from the coat check area where I'd left it earlier. My hands didn't shake as I opened it. Inside were folders. Documents. Years of receipts, bank statements, and records I'd been keeping since I was 23 years old. I'd brought them tonight because some part of me, the part that had been dismissed and overlooked for 3 decades, knew this moment would come eventually. I pulled out the property deed first. My name. Only my name. Purchased April 15, 2021, for $385,000. Mortgage in my name. Property tax receipts in my name. This condo is legally mine, I said, holding up the deed so the guests in the front could see it. Solely mine. There is no legal mechanism by which my parents can force me to transfer it to Madison. Olivia, stop embarrassing yourself, Mom snapped. This is ridiculous. We're your parents. We know what's best. I pulled out another folder. Do you? Let's talk about what you know. This folder contains every financial transaction between us since I was 23. Should I share it with everyone here? Dad's face went pale. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I opened the folder. June 2019. Madison needed $3,000 for her business startup. The candle company that lasted 3 months. You asked me to loan it to her. I did. Never got it back. August 2020. Madison's car repairs. $2,400. You said it was a family emergency. I paid. Never reimbursed. December 2021. Madison's credit card debt. $8,500. You said you'd pay me back within 6 months. That was 3 years ago. Madison's fiancé Trevor was staring at her with a new expression. One of dawning realization. Stop it. Madison screamed. You're lying. You're making this up because you're jealous. I have bank statements for everything. Cancelled checks. Text messages. Emails. The total amount I've given to this family over 9 years is $64,750. I let that number hang in the air. $64,750. Not including the time I paid your rent for 4 months when you were between jobs, Madison. Or the groceries I bought for family dinners. Or the birthday gifts I purchased for Mom and Dad with my own money while Madison showed up empty-handed. The room was silent except for someone's uncomfortable cough. And now you want my home. The one thing I worked for entirely on my own. The one asset I have that you haven't already borrowed against, spent, or taken. My voice didn't rise, but it carried. No. Dad moved toward me again, his fist clenched. Several male guests shifted forward, ready to intervene if necessary. You're done in this family, Dad snarled. Done. We will make sure everyone knows what a selfish, ungrateful daughter you are. Go ahead. I closed the folder calmly. I've been making detailed records for years specifically because I knew this day would come. I knew eventually you'd push too far. I pulled out my phone and sent a single text message to my property lawyer, Diane Morrison. Need you at the Grand Rose Hotel. Private event room. It's time. Then I turned to Madison. Congratulations on your engagement. I genuinely hope you and Trevor are happy. But you're not getting my condo. Trevor, say something. Madison grabbed her fiancé's arm. Tell her she has to give it to us. We need it. Trevor gently extracted his arm from her grip. His face was carefully neutral. Madison, why do you need her condo? I thought you said you'd been saving for a down payment. Madison's mouth opened and closed. I have been. Kind of. But this would be so much easier. How much have you saved? Trevor asked quietly. I don't see why that matters right now. How much, Madison? Her face flushed. About $2,000. Trevor's eyebrows rose. 2,000? You said you had 15,000 saved. I was going to have 15,000. Daddy and Mommy were going to help. I almost felt sorry for Trevor. Almost. He was learning in real time the truth about the woman he'd proposed to. The minutes ticked by with excruciating slowness. Guests whispered to each other. Some checked their phones. Madison cried artfully into Mom's shoulder while glaring daggers at me. Dad stood with his arms crossed, his face like thunder. I remained near the entrance, briefcase in hand, checking my phone periodically. Exactly 63 minutes after I'd sent the text, Diane Morrison walked into the event room. Diane was 55, silver-haired, and had the kind of presence that made people instinctively straighten their posture. She wore a charcoal suit and carried a leather portfolio. Her heels clicked authoritatively across the marble floor. Miss Chin, she greeted me with a slight smile. I got your message. Thank you for coming, Diane. I gestured to my parents. Diane Morrison, meet my parents, Richard and Susan Chin. Mom's face went white. A lawyer? You brought a lawyer to your sister's engagement party. I texted her an hour ago, I corrected. After Dad assaulted me and tried to coerce me into surrendering my property. Assaulted? Dad sputtered. I barely touched you. Diane's eyes zeroed in on my face. My cheek was still red, the outline of fingers visible. I see. Miss Chin, would you like to press charges for assault? I can call the police right now. We have 40 witnesses. The room went deathly quiet. Not at this time, I said calmly. But I would like you to explain to my parents and to everyone here the legal status of my property. Diane nodded. She opened her portfolio and pulled out a document. The property located at 450 Riverside Drive, Unit 12B, is solely owned by Olivia Marie Chin. The deed is in her name only. The mortgage is in her name only. No other party has any legal claim to this property. Any attempt to force Ms. Chin to transfer ownership against her would constitute coercion and could result in criminal charges. She looked directly at my parents. Additionally, any continued harassment regarding this property could result in a restraining order. Ms. Chin has documented evidence of financial exploitation spanning 9 years, totaling over $64,000. If she chose to pursue legal action to recover these funds, she would have an extremely strong case. Mom grabbed Dad's arm. Richard. Furthermore, Diane continued, her voice crisp and professional, Ms. Chin has asked me to draft a formal cease and desist letter regarding any future demands for her property or assets. This letter will be served to both of you within 48 hours. If you violate its terms, we will pursue all available legal remedies. Madison was sobbing openly now, mascara running down her face. This is my engagement party. How could you ruin everything? I didn't ruin anything, I said quietly. I simply refused to give you something that was never yours to take. Trevor was staring at his phone, his face troubled. I wondered if he was reconsidering the entire engagement. Based on the way Madison was clutching at him desperately, she was wondering the same thing. Several guests near the exit began quietly leaving. The party was clearly over. Diane handed me a folder. The cease and desist letters ready for your signature. I'll have them served Monday morning. I signed both copies with a pen she provided. My signature was steady, clear. Miss Chin, Diane said formally, do you have anything else you'd like to address while I'm here? I looked at my parents. At Madison. At the wreckage of the engagement party around us. Just one thing. I turned to Trevor. You seem like a decent person. I'd recommend having a very honest conversation with Madison about finances, expectations, and what marriage actually means before you move forward. That's all. Trevor nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. I picked up my briefcase. Diane walked beside me toward the exit. Olivia. Mom's voice cracked. You can't just leave. We're your family. I paused at the door and looked back at them one last time. You're right. You're my family. But that doesn't mean you own me. That doesn't mean you're entitled to everything I've built. And it certainly doesn't mean I have to set myself on fire to keep you warm. The lobby of the Grand Rose Hotel was blessedly quiet. Diane and I walked out together into the cool evening air. You okay? She asked gently. I will be. My cheeks still throbbed where Dad had slapped me, but something else had shifted inside my chest. Something that felt almost like freedom. Thank you for coming so quickly. You've been my client for 3 years, Olivia. I knew this day would come eventually. People like your parents always push until someone pushes back. She squeezed my shoulder. Go home. Lock your doors. Change your locks if they have keys. And call me if they show up or contact you. I drove back to my condo, my beautiful, hard-earned, completely mine condo, as the city lights blurred past my windows. Inside, I locked the door, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat on my balcony overlooking the city. My phone buzzed incessantly with calls and texts from my parents, from Madison, from relatives who'd been at the party. I turned it off. For the first time in my adult life, I felt completely, utterly at peace. The condo was mine. My life was mine. And I was finally truly free.